so he had this amazing technology. He's like, okay, now what am I going to do? And so that's how it got brought to the public.
One of the things that I love about the patches is it does different things for everybody because everybody has different needs.
Your next favorite podcast pick starts now. Here's the Professor and Heather Ann.
Welcome to
The Professor and Heather Ann.
Although we don't have all the answers, we hope we can encourage and excite you. We're sharing our lives to help you make the most of the second half of your life. And today, we're going to talk about health. And we have a guest who we'll introduce later. So as we get into our 50s and 60s, and I'm not going to use euphemisms here, things start to wear out.
Yes.
And dealing with that becomes a big part of life. So Heather, what's been the most surprising physical change you've undergone since getting into your 50s?
Energy. Definitely.
Okay.
I just don't feel like I have the energy I used to. What about you?
I've had, like many men of my age, prostate problems and a large prostate, and rising levels of prostate-specific antigen, a couple of cancer scares. About 10 years ago, I had a biopsy, and just last year had an MRI. Also, I've never been very flexible. So even when I was in high school, and I was in good shape, I was on the cross-country team, but even then I couldn't touch my toes without bending my knees. And I've gotten less and less flexible and had more and more problems with balance. I started to notice it on airplanes going to and from the bathroom. I feel like I'm about to tip over onto my fellow passengers. I have to hold out my arms to keep my balance. But I knew that this is not right. It shouldn't be this way.
So what are some of the things that you've done these past few years to change it?
Well, I have adopted quite a lot of self-discipline about exercise. So I exercised only sort of sporadically until my late 50s. And then I started going to the gym to get on the treadmill almost every day. But then the pandemic struck, and of course the gym was closed. And then even when it opened again, they required you to wear a mask, which I wasn't going to wear a mask while running on a treadmill. So then it was just, my only exercise was walking around the neighborhood. But since I've moved to Oklahoma, and since we met, I now make sure to go to the gym 3 times a week at least. Because, one of the things that happens is the older you get, the more quickly you get out of shape from not exercising, and the longer it takes to get back into shape when you start up again. So this has been a major thing.
And what do you do at the gym?
At the gym, I do weights and cardio
and recently
and yoga. And the yoga has helped me regain my balance. From doing the tree pose. And also on the weights, I do the lat pull down. That's one of the routines I do every time to strengthen the core. And so I don't feel like I'm about to tip over while walking on airplanes anymore.
So I have been working out in gyms most of my life. I added yoga about 10 years ago, and that truly, I found that even though I was a gymnast for 10 years, I was losing a lot of my flexibility. The yoga has definitely helped, and it also helps tremendously with my stress. I'm in a very stressful job. So I was very excited that you were willing to start going to the gym. You started out with trainers to learn the proper way to lift weights. And now you're hooked. We do yoga together. Though we can't be right next to each other when we do yoga because
Heather sees the things I'm doing wrong and
I want to help. So I need to be in the yoga class, and it helps me with, bringing down my stress levels and stuff. So we have to be we can't be right next to each other. And I appreciate that did not hurt your feelings, as you were willing to do that. Some of the other things that we really have done is we're reading labels on our food. So we do not eat a lot of processed food. It's amazing. We were at Trader Joe's one time, and it's amazing that even at Trader Joe's, I wanted some hummus, and soon we'll be making our own hummus. But I picked up 2 different ones. Red one, it had something like 15 different ingredients. Mm-hmm. Picked up another one, it only had 3. So we bought the one that only had 3. We cook the majority. Right now, cook the majority of our meals. We mainly eat at home, all of our meals. And one of the things I've had to learn about health and everything is women are taught at a very early age to not necessarily like our bodies. So we learn at a very early age to starve our bodies. And I had a hysterectomy in my 30s. 30s. And in my mid-30s, and after a few years, started having problems with putting on weight and all that stuff. And over the years, I've realized, and through nutritionists and trainers, that I've actually still been starving my body. So learning how to eat properly has been a big thing for me. There's times, if it's left to me, that I will not eat.
Yes. So when I'm away, when I go on a trip myself, and I'll call Heather, and sometimes I feel like I have to, like I'm talking to a child. Yeah. Have you eaten 3 meals today? What were they?
He has to quiz me on them. But other things that we've done is we've moved to more holistic. I tried to, like this weekend, we've had colds. I try to use more natural remedies. I've been using essential oils for years. Something that I got into years ago, my oldest son at the age of 6 was diagnosed with a very rare disease, 1 in 200,000, that produces tumors in your body, anywhere in your body. And the only way to find out about those tumors is he had to constantly, every 6 months, have MRIs, CAT scans, bone scans. And the very first time they brought out this metal box that had this huge warning, and the technician was putting on these lead gloves to inject my child with nuclear medicine that would make his bones glow so that they could make sure that he didn't have any tumors in his bones. And he had to go through this procedures for 10 years. They found 2 tumors throughout those 10 years. But at that point, I knew I would constantly ask the doctors, what is this doing to him? He's growing. What is this doing to his bones? How is this staying, in his system? How do you get rid of it? So that started my journey. And then when we started dating, you pretty much, whenever I put a concoction in front of you and said, hey, we're taking these pills, I need you to drink this, you're always just like, sure, I'll drink it.
Yes, I have complete faith that this, at worst, it won't do any harm. But most likely it will do some good.
It'll do some good. So we always try to do things as natural as possible. Especially for me, the last few years, women's hormones, we'll be able to talk about that in another episode. But I've learned over the years that trauma I had as a child had put me in a high cortisol levels. I still am at those high cortisol levels. So just trying to figure out my body and what it's doing. I was fortunate enough to meet our next guest at the beginning of the year. And I met her at actually our producer's house. When Nikki and I met, we had a brief conversation. We set up an appointment to talk more about these patches and something that she wanted to introduce me to, the technology behind it, how it's natural. It really piqued my interest. I brought it home and said, this is what I want to try. I really think this could be something that would be very beneficial to us. At the time, I was actually even having pain in my hip to where I was actually having a hard time walking. Something that had been bugging me for quite a while, and was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to have to go to an orthopedic because this is just getting worse. So I came home and said, this is what we're going to do. And you were like,
okay,
let's try it. So
yes, we're very pleased to have as our guest today Nikki McCutchen. She is a wellness expert and founder of the Embrace Optimal Health movement, an empowering community of busy professionals dedicated to unlocking their body's natural vitality, accelerating recovery, and sustaining energy without relying on exhausting routines or endless medication. So, welcome, Nikki.
Thank you all so much for having me. Oh my goodness, this is so much fun. And I am just so excited for you all. Everything that you've done and the changes that you're making, it's so exciting. So I'm so proud of you both. It's so wonderful.
Well, thanks. I guess we could start by asking something about your personal story, what led up to you discovering LifeWave?
Yeah, so I have always been interested in health. I actually have a Bachelor of Science in Wellness. And so I've always pursued and looked at, health overall. And really and truly, my journey started with my daughter. So similar to you having, an issue with your son, Heather, my daughter had a vaccine injury when she was a baby. And so that led me down a road of trying to figure out how to detoxify and support her body naturally to bring her back, her body back into balance so that it could do what it needs to do, through our lifetime. So that's really, it was really more of a mom's journey, and the things that moms go through to try to help their children. And thankfully, I was passionate about health and learning and understanding what was going to be best, for our bodies and helping her heal.
Okay. And could you explain briefly, well, or it doesn't have to be brief, explain it at as great a length as you like, the science behind light therapy. What is it?
Absolutely. So this technology is extremely unique. There's no comparison on the market today. There's really nothing that you could say these two things do something similar to this in particular light therapy technology. So it works through a process called photobiomodulation, which is just a big word for light making change in the body. That, of course, has been around for millions of years, since the beginning of the time and the sun. And when you step out into the sun and it hits your skin and your eyes, it tells your body to make vitamin D. And then that vitamin D goes and does what it was already designed to do in the body because of how we are created. So this technology accesses that process through photobiomodulation, only now we don't need the sun. Our bodies emit a low-grade infrared light that comes out of our bodies everywhere. So most people don't necessarily understand that either, but it's something that you all know, because when you sit down next to someone and you feel that heat coming off of them, that scientifically is a low-grade infrared light. That heat is light. And so even when you look through night vision goggles and you see, they call it a heat signature, again, that is scientifically a low-grade infrared light. So that light is what is now used with this technology to turn on peptides in our body that are already there, and then they go and do what they were already designed to do, just like vitamin D is.
I like that explanation of like the night goggles and seeing the infrared of a living object, whether it's a human or an animal.
Yes.
So I like that explanation, because I think that can help our listeners visualize and understand a little bit more on how the technology works.
Absolutely.
And
could you say just a little bit about the history of this company, like the person who...
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So David Schmidt is absolutely fascinating. His story and his background, and truly a genius in the health technology space. So the way he got started was with the Navy SEALs. And they brought him in to come up with a technology that could potentially help the SEALs go on their over 36-hour missions and be able to stay awake and alert without having to do drugs, amphetamines, uppers, different things like that. And so he's like, sure, let me try. And that is when our first patch technology was born. So it was invented for the Navy SEALs. At that time, that was before 9/11. And 9/11 then happened, and then the government completely did away with that program. So he had this amazing technology. He's like, okay, now what am I going to do? And so that's how it got brought to the public. So he originally started out with Richard Quick, who is a 6-time Olympic gold medalist swim coach. And they were doing studies with those swimmers. So at Stanford, 6 out of the 8 swimmers increased their PRs. So you're talking best of the best athletes in the world who are now seeing, their ability, improve in what they can do. From there, in 2008, it went to the entire Olympic swim team. And we won a bunch of medals that year. And so they were then accused of doping. And of course, with athletes, that even like herbs and supplements, they have to be careful of, what they're taking because it can show up as something else. So with this technology, then all of them had to go in and get tested. So on a worldwide scale, it was now proven that nothing was entering the body. So truly a light therapy product. It's non-transdermal. There's nothing going into the body. So they all got to keep their medals, and it's shown on a worldwide scale that it's just supporting what is already the body's design.
So there now are a great variety of these patches, and so I wonder if you could just describe. It seems like the X39, would you say that's like the basic one?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's foundational. Yeah.
Okay.
We start everyone with X39 because GHK copper peptide, that is what it's turning on. So basically like a light switch in your house. You're wearing the patch and it is turning on GHK copper peptide for it to go and do what it was already designed to do in the body. Just like you flip on your light switch and the electricity goes to the light bulbs and then, they come on, the electricity. So it's not, again, the light switch is nothing other than the turn on method of that electricity. So this turns on GHK copper peptide. GHK copper peptide, there's over 50 years of scientific research, so the science is very sound on what GHK copper peptide does in the body. GHK copper peptide is known as the fountain of youth because of how many different things that it supports in the body, across the body. So again, there are just tons of, studies on what it does in the body. So it helps, so many, like over 80, different types of functionalities in the body to produce, the right things and for your body to operate within balance. So yeah, it's really significant.
Okay, thank you. And could you talk about just maybe a couple of the other more specialized patches?
Sure. Yeah. So when we're dealing with individuals, usually the next patch that we normally recommend is one that turns on a amino acid in your liver that's specific to inflammation, because most people have inflammation. So if you're able to support that natural body process and bring that inflammation down naturally, it makes a huge difference in the results that people will get, as well as the amount of time that it can take. So GHK copper peptide, what's interesting about it is it already reduces inflammation by 30%. So it's why we start someone with that, because they may not need another patch. They could already get their inflammation to come down. So we don't know what's going on in each individual body. The body knows it's designed to heal itself. That's what it's designed to do. So when you give it what it needs, it can do that. So that's one that we normally start. Another one, especially with the athletes, will utilize X49. That one also turns on a daughter peptide to GHK copper peptide, which is AHK-Cu, so AHK copper peptide. So those two work synergistically, especially for athletes, helping their bodies, improve strength, stamina, endurance, as well as the other interesting thing is that it helps with stopping bone loss and increasing bone density. So for women, over 40, who want that support as well, it's a great support. So those are two of the main ones. There's a detoxification one too. Everyone needs to detox. So that's probably a third one that a lot of people utilize, is just elevating glutathione in the body.
One of the things that I love about the patches is it does different things for everybody, because everybody has different needs, different issues with their body.
Yes.
Some of the patches that I use, Joe does not use them. And then some of the patches don't work the same for me as they do for him. So that's been an experiment in itself. Mm-hmm. And you're able to help guide people with what patches would work best with their bodies and their symptoms.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so that's what I do, is I just sit down and help people with their specific goals and what they're wanting to see in their health, and just make those recommendations based on what could potentially be best for them.
Right. So like the sleep promoting patch.
Yes.
Silent Night. Yes. So it works really well for me. But you found that
it does not help me sleep at night. But with your recommendation, we changed that up. I put it in a different place. And that's the other thing that I'm finding fascinating about the patches, is that it comes with instructions and tells you, oh, put it here, here, and here. But sometimes I put it in different places and find that helps me even more.
Absolutely.
And so the sleep patch, I don't do it every day. But on the days like I know I'm extra stressed or didn't sleep well the night before, then I'll put the sleep patch on during the day. And that seems to be making a huge difference for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's, it's why it's important to have somebody that can explain to you, and that you're communicating with, to make those recommendations. But yeah, the Silent Night patch works on about 50% of the people. I kind of have my own little hypothesis as to why it does or doesn't work. But if you have dysregulated serotonin in your DNA, then that is my thought. It's why it does not work for that other 50% of the people, and why you would want to use it during the day instead, because you want the support in your gut for that serotonin production. So yeah, so that's why we switched that up and made that recommendation. But yeah, for those that it works for with sleep, it's a miracle. Like it's a fantastic patch for sure. So
the other patch that I really have been using and actually put on this morning was the Ice Wave. My hip, since being on the patches, has helped me tremendously with my hip. It literally was to the point where sometimes I'd be walking and my leg just kind of give out from me. The first time Joe caught it, he was like, are you okay? Do we need to get we were at Costco. Do you need to get the little motorized little thing to go riding around, the little scooter? Yes. And I was like, no, we do not. But it has helped me tremendously. But like, we've been traveling a lot. So we've been on planes, not sleeping in our bed, and woke up this morning with just some extra pain in my hip. So I put on the Ice Wave. And I know it tells you to put it different places, but I literally have it down on my hip. And probably within 30 minutes of putting it on, I wasn't having any more pain.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
So the Ice Wave, so there are different ones. Mm-hmm. And again, everybody's body is different. Everybody's going to react differently to it. One thing that I like about it is, number one, Joe and I are fortunate enough that we are not on any medication at all.
Praise the Lord.
And I would like us to stay that way.
Absolutely.
I just found Joe, so part of all the things that I give him, including the patches, is to keep him young and keep him around for as long as I can. But as we're learning, and I think it's coming out more, even with, and again, it'll be whole different episodes on women's hormones, is that we're talking about our health more. Mm-hmm. We're not listening necessarily to what all the pharmaceutical companies. we're not paying attention to the commercials that are constantly being bombarded with that you have to take this or you have to take to this. We became a society where we were diagnosing ourselves, going to our doctor and saying, hey, I need this. Well, one of the things being an athlete was I found in my early 20s is that I am allergic to opioids. So when I'm in pain or have something, I have always tried to work through it, find some alternative. When I have surgeries, I'm put on heavy duty, like morphine and different things like that, which you can't just be taking that if you're in pain. So I was excited to use the ice wave and see how that actually worked and how that was changing my pain and how I wasn't just having to suffer through it. I have a high tolerance to pain because I've had to, I have broken bones. I have a plate in my arm and my shoulder. I've had two C-sections, a hysterectomy, and during all this time, I've had to be on medication for a few days, and then I have to be off of it. So I am very excited that you came to talk to us about this so that we can share with our audience that there is alternatives. Not that we're telling anybody to not take their medication or anything, but for years and centuries, people have had the natural plants and different things on how sun to heal our bodies naturally. And that's what we have found with the patches. It's helping me with my inflammation, my high cortisol, my pain. It has made a huge difference with Joe.
Well, so my latest labs, my levels of prostate-specific antigen fell substantially. And that's something, usually the older you get, the higher they get. But they fell quite a lot the last time, so I'm not sure. I might be because of the patches, might be because I'm drinking soursop tea, but something.
But it's a combination of both. It's definitely helping. But what I found interesting when his labs came in and he went to the doctor didn't ask what he was doing, and that was frustrating for me.
Yes.
And I share with my doctor all the natural things and stuff I do because I've been going to him for years. And he'll suggest something a few years before the pandemic. My blood pressure had shot up. We didn't know what it was. I asked him to give me 3 months, started doing yoga like 5-6 times a week, and was able to get it down. But his response always is like, you're not going to take whatever I ask you to give. And it's like, no, just tell me what I need to do. I'll find a way, an alternative way. And that's what we have done with LifeWave, with the patches.
So, okay, we're gonna come back to this in the more general issue of people's growing skepticism or even distrust of conventional medicine. But before we get there, I looked up and read a couple of scientific papers testing the efficacy of light therapy. These are by someone called Melinda Connor and colleagues, and so I wonder, Nikki, if you could sort of summarize what kinds of benefits have been found in these research studies.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can actually find all of the studies if you go to patchtheway.com. So PATCH, theway.com. And you'll have to enter a passcode. So there's a button you can click that, and then enter the word light. And then all of the research studies and patents will come up at the top. So there's over 90 different clinical studies, and there is over 200 patents. So there's really a large body of evidence of what the technology does. So this in particular study that you're talking about, what she was studying, I think it's on 15 participants that went from days 1 to 7. And so they were showing better sleep, decrease in blood pressure, overall vitality and health, just feeling better, more energy. So things were reported like that. And that study was just within 7 days. So when you are able to elevate GHK copper peptide, that the work that's out there shows that starts to happen instantly. So as that starts to happen instantly, people can experience all kinds of different health benefits overall.
Okay.
And being the scientist that Joe is, he naturally had to look into
get into the scientific literature,
which is awesome. I love it.
So just speaking personally, for me, like realizing that or discovering of how much of conventional biomedical research it can't be replicated, or in some cases it's just out and out fake. So there was that scandal with the research on the cause of Alzheimer's disease. It was thought to be amyloid beta plaques, and it turns out that a seminal paper in this area that was published in 2006 and has been cited more than 2,000 times is fake. It's based on falsified images, and so it led an entire area of research down a false path. And that's just one. That's probably the most notorious example. But a lot of biomedical research just can't be relied on. And then when you think about the public health authorities and how they just incinerated their own credibility during the pandemic by misleading us about the source of the virus, about the necessity of lockdowns. We now know the lockdowns did more harm than good. Okay, like Sweden was the only European country that didn't lock down, had the lowest excess mortality rate of any European country. They misled us about what the vaccines do, and so forth. And so, for me, all this has led to a much greater openness to the unconventional or alternative health methods. And so, I wonder, Nikki, if you could comment on this general issue and the rise of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's kind of like a symbol of this skepticism. Mm-hmm. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it is disheartening, right? When you see scientific papers that have been manipulated, or clinical studies that have been manipulated, or the numbers have been manipulated, to show a different outcome. And so that definitely puts us in a more skeptical light, which, all of the, doctors and scientists, they want to see that documentation of the scientific evidence saying that your product does what it says it's going to do. And so sometimes I think it's important for us to just step back and look at the fact of, especially like if I'm just talking about this company and the patch technology, the company's been around for 20 years. It's a $600 million company. How is a company going to sustain that and continue to have, we have 300% growth rate. Okay, that's what this company and this technology is doing in the industry. So if that's happening, people are not being duped. It's working. Like for those things to happen, it must be working for people. So yes, obviously all the scientific information is helpful and we want it and we're glad that it's there. Do we know that stuff can be manipulated? Yes, we do. But then you have in my opinion, the broader and more beneficial body of proof is the public. What do the people say? Like, what does it show, and how is that happening? So, and yes, I think I'm so thankful for RFK and all of the work that he is doing and, the symbol that he and his, organization stand and all of his connections through the MAHA movement. I just think it's amazing. And I'm just extremely thankful for it. I know very many people are extremely critical of him, but I can't imagine being in the shoes of having to, fight the opposing side, and all of the opposition that he's coming up against to try to do what he's doing, which really is truly present truth, what is actually going on out there, and for people to critically look at it, which through RFK's story, we see that he was in the same position. He vaccinated all of his children. He believed they were good until it was a mom who's standing before him with stacks full of evidence saying, you have to read this. I need you to read this. And once he did that, again, the body of truth then spoke. And he could no longer close his eyes to what was actually going on.
And that's why we really wanted to have you on, is that I think we're at a critical time in our lives where you just have to start doing your own research.
Absolutely.
I have done extensive research, about all the testing and stuff that my son had. I have done extensive research on what that could cause later on in his life. I think for moms, it starts with our kids.
Absolutely.
And then we start looking at ourselves.
Yes.
And I unfortunately had to have a hysterectomy at a very early age, which threw me into menopause. And at that time, my I was doing the patch and then I became allergic to it. And the doctor's like, you're fine. You don't need anything else. And over the last few years, I've been researching more and having more conversations. And more people are starting to talk about that, not just about women's hormones, but men's hormones. Mm-hmm. We're talking about our food. We're talking about what is in our grocery stores. Mm-hmm. And that's what really was important to us to have you on, is to be able to have people talk more, how we can heal our own bodies, how we have to take our own health in our own hands. We cannot rely definitely on big pharma anymore, but we definitely can't even just rely on our doctors, because our doctors are just doing the best they can. We're not here to bash doctors or say what they're saying is wrong. They're going off information. Mm-hmm. We're having more women gynecologists and stuff that are coming forward saying, we didn't learn about women's hormones in med school mm-hmm. or in my residency. Mm-hmm. We just weren't taught those things. And I just think that's one of the things that I like about, whether you like RFK Jr. or not, that it's opening up conversations. Absolutely. We can sit here and have a conversation. I brought the patches home to Joe and said, I really want to try this. We're going to be moving to Virginia. We're going to be doing more farming, if you can say that, with growing more of our own food. We already started doing that here. So I want us to be as healthy as long as we can. Mm-hmm. We've met each other in the second part of our lives. So it's very important, and that's why it was important to have you on here. One of the things I want to talk about real briefly is Joe's been open-minded when, let's drink this concoction because it'll help with getting the mucus and stuff. Let's put our patches on. Vitamins. There's particular vitamins I've been taking for years that have been a tremendous help for me. Joe has them. But let's face it, a lot of men do not want to talk about their health and do not necessarily even want to take a lot of the things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is your recommendation for all the men out there?
Men often want to go it alone and feel there's something wrong with asking for help. But these are the sorts of things that you do need help. You do need help, and you have to seek advice and describe what's going on with you,
and talk about it with your spouse, with your partner. When we first started dating, I noticed some things that I had actually dealt with my previous marriage with my husband, and some health issues that he had. Joe did not want to necessarily talk about those things, but I'm like, well, let's talk about it. Yeah. Maybe you should talk to your doctor about it. And that got him to start talking more about issues that he was having with his body, why he was more willing to take whatever I suggested that we take. Changing our food. That was something that was really simple and something that we definitely agreed on 100%.
That's right. So, yeah. There's no shame in explaining the problems you're having, describing the problems you're having to those close to you, and seeking help. I have one more question about the patches. It's kind of like on the lighter side, although in a way it's not, because it could be objected that when people feel better with the patches, it's just placebo effect. Mm-hmm. But the patches can be used on animals too, can't they?
Yes, they can. And of course, there's no placebo effect on that as well.
Right.
So, yes, for sure. So I actually, just one of the interviews that I did last night, she was talking about using it on her cat, because her cat was having issues. So, and I've used it on my own cats as well. And so they, leg pain, like limping, and then, issue on their face, and cleared up. Like they were fine then, I have a veterinarian in the family, and so I'm texting him and asking what I should do. And he's like, well, you need to go and you need to, get an antibiotic, and I'm thinking, but I have this patch. Let me just see I'm just going to try this patch on my cat first before I spend $500 to go see the veterinarian.
Well, and I'm glad Joe brought that up, because a month, 45 days ago, I asked you about that specific thing. We have a cat. He's 9 years old. He was diagnosed with diabetes 6 months ago. Neuropathy is setting in with his hind legs, and I wanted to do more for him. I had the benefit of knowing about diabetes and giving the shots and different things. Again, it's for my cat, but my ex-husband is a type 1 diabetic, so I learned a lot about diabetes. And so his blood sugars just weren't coming down. We noticed his hips were getting even worse. He stopped basically kind of interacting. He slept a lot. He wasn't jumping up on counters or tables or anything as much. We put a patch on him. He's jumping up on the counters now.
Oh, wow.
There's some counters he still can't.
Yeah.
But he gets on the table. He jumps up on the chair to get on the counter. And yes, we allow our cats on the counter and stuff. Don't come back at us on that. But he's jumping up on the bed. He's jumping on the sofa. So we are seeing a huge difference with him. So, and again, we can't make that up. He's not saying anything differently.
No.
We just notice yesterday he was very active and wanted to play and wanted to cuddle. So we're noticing a big difference in him. And his personality is starting to come back since he was diagnosed with diabetes.
That's great. Praise the Lord. That's amazing. I love it.
So, Nikki, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to tell our listeners?
No, I just love everything that you all are doing. Kind of my slogan is the time to embrace optimal health is always now. And you guys are doing that. And I love seeing that. It's so much fun just to hear you reading food labels and, talking about teas that you can add and, different herbs and growing your own garden. And all of those things make such a huge difference in life overall and in health overall. And that's really what I love to promote, is just people embracing optimal health now.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate you joining us today and sharing the
Yes.
information about the patches and LifeWay. We started using the patches at the beginning of the year. We've seen a big difference in our health, how we're moving. I know for me, just not having that pain in my hip all the time now and feeling more energy, being able to move with less pain, less inflammation.
And our guest, Nikki McCutchen, has explained how light therapy works and the history of it, why it's something that you should consider trying.
So thank you for joining us today.
So join us here each week, my friend. You're sure to get a smile. From lessons learned to mishaps, the adventures go on for miles. Here on
The Professor and Heather Ann.
Thank you for listening to The Professor and Heather Ann.